What's up? What's up? Welcome to the Hangout. I'm BJ Kicks from Comics Are Dope because this is Comics Are Dope. Clearly, I messed up the intro. My bad. I'm a little bit late. I was a little bit late because I was actually going through my pregame warm up, the baby powder toss, and all that. And I just lost track of time. I'm joking. I'm joking. But it's really cool to see that you guys are here. My man Jake from the Brave and the Boys is here. That intro song got me more hyped than the Swedish Fish Ghost Energy. I didn't even know Swedish Fish had an energy drink. That's wild. Um, Ryder Battles here early. My man Steven's here, excited. And yeah, talking about the pregame intro. But yeah, anyways, guys, this is the Hangout, my live stream that we do most Thursdays about 7 p.m. Eastern, as long as I'm around and not too busy. And here we are. So if you're watching this on the replay, thank you. I appreciate it. Hopefully you can join us next time, probably next Thursday. 7 p.m. Eastern. But if not, it's all good. I appreciate you watching the replay. And for those of you who are here live, go ahead and let me know you're here. Just say what's up. DBZ Minis here. Hello, hello. I see you with Vegeta on the avatar. My man Tim is here. Everybody's here. The gang is all here. So yeah, tonight we're gonna keep it fairly chill. I am just kind of starting to get caught up. It's been a very busy past few weeks. It's been a busy 6 months, if I'm being honest. And this week is the week to finally play catch up. We put Squeak in a full-time daycare. So I've actually got like the full work day to do work and prepare for comic book stuff. So this week I feel like we haven't seen the results or like the full effect of this new transition, this new era we're about to be in. But by the time June rolls around, you'll start to notice the level up in productivity. But this week has been about trying to play catch up. I've been trying to clean my office a little bit. I went to the comic shop for the first time in like 3 weeks yesterday. So I've got all of this week's books and all the last 3 weeks books as well. Like just a whole bunch of stuff I've got here in my stack. So we're going to talk about some of the books that I've read today and yesterday. We're going to talk about this news about Diamond and Image Comics and what that could mean for the direct market. Not like I'm some expert on the direct market, but when major shifts like this happen, I feel like it's important to talk about. So we're going to talk about those. I'm going to show you guys some recent pickups of mine, and we're going to hang out. We're going to get into whatever you guys want to get into as well. So before we do that, got to give a huge shout out to all the people that make content on this channel possible, including the channel family. So channel family is a select few people who have decided to donate on a monthly recurring basis to the channel. So they help keep the lights on around here. They make it so that I can have my weekly budget for comic book pulls. And every now and then I can grab something cool to show you guys, something that I wouldn't be able to grab if not for their support. So thank you to the channel family. In fact, just recently, one of the members of the channel family, Tayshawn, who's here in the chat, donated a tripod to the channel. Like not the money to buy a tripod, but like an actual tripod. And so now I can film top down footage. I don't remember if I shouted that out later or earlier, but I just wanted to shout that out because that was just an insane show of, I was going to say gratitude. It's not gratitude, generosity. There we go. So thanks to Tayshawn. And when you guys start seeing new overviews and top downs and stuff like that, you'll have him to thank for that. But anyway, huge shout out to the channel family. If you see them in the chat, they're the ones with badges next to their names. I think the longest tenured members right now have the Nightwing badge. Some of the newer ones, you might see a Red Hood badge. You might see a Joker badge. Yeah, lots of very interesting people and badges. So the more members we have, by the way, the more badges I get to open up and the more other perks that we get to do. So if you are interested in supporting the channel in that way, you can click the join button down below. And I got to give another huge shout out to our channel sponsor, Organic Price Books. They're the best place to go online for collected editions, such as the Blood Syndicate hardcover that my man Steven pre ordered. His is actually going to be here somewhere today, tomorrow, today. Very cool. Very cool. So, yeah, if you're interested in ordering hardcovers like that or this recent pickup, the Batman Who Laughs Deluxe Edition, then you can go to Organic Price Books and place your order. You can use the coupon code BJKicks at checkout. You'll save $2. If you're ordering 3 or more books, you can save 5% with the code BJKicks. Ship it together. And now that all the bills are paid, man, let's get into the show. So I like to do let's start off with a light segment. Let's do that. So light segment, we're going to talk about a recent pickup. So recent pickups this week, actually I got in the mail mid last week. This was a gift from the homie Jake of The Brave and the Boys, who's in the chat right now. But this is the Batman Who Laughs Deluxe Edition. The Batman Who Laughs, a series by Scott Snyder and Jock. And man, it's really interesting stuff. This is the type of this came out in the heels of Dark Knight's Metal, if I'm not mistaken. And kind of set into motion a lot of the stuff that we know now. Like where the DC universe is now couldn't have been without the Batman Who Laughs. We had the whole Scott Snyder Justice League saga, and that led to the Year of the Villain, the big war between Lex and the Batman Who Laughs for the affections of Perpetua, and leading into the Dark Knight's death metal saga, which led to Infinite Frontier, which has led us directly into, that led to Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. And now we're in the dawn of DC, which has been amazing. But this series was coming out like just as I was getting into comics. So it's cool to be able to read this. And thanks to Jake for donating it. Yeah, I get to read it for free, which is always cool. You guys know I'm a sucker for oversized hardcovers and deluxes, so huge thanks. So it's Metal, then Justice League, then Batman Who Laughs into Death Metal. Got it. Got it. That's good to know. So much to read. Death Metal was a ridiculously huge event. I did read Death Metal, but I haven't ever read Dark Knight's Metal. So I want to go in and kind of read all that. Dino Mites here says, evening all. What's up? What's up? Yeah, the Brave and the Boys. If you guys haven't subscribed to the Brave and the Boys, Jake does a great job. Him and you'll have to remind me of your partner's name, but it's not just like, oh, let's unbox something. So Jake did a whole experiment where he's like, let me order the same book from like every possible retailer and see who comes through the best between pricing, packaging, shipping speed, customer service, and all that. So that's how I ended up with this, because he bought like 6 of them and he gave this one away to me. And I don't know, I'm sure he did another giveaway on his channel. So I don't know if he's giving it away yet. Jake, let the people know. If so, if he has not, then you can head over to his channel and figure out how you can get yourself a copy, or just order it from Organic Price Books. My man Day Day's here. What is up, man? BJ, hey bro, what is up? My brother, me brethren. So yeah. So speaking of recent pickups, I did also just pick up like a bunch of books from the last 3 weeks of comic releases. So if you were listening or if you watched the what I'm getting or the pull list videos, then you already know all the stuff that I ended up grabbing. But there were a couple of books. Where am I at? So here's one that I read and forgot was on my pull list. So I grabbed that. So that was a really cool. Count Dante #1 from Scout Comics. And then, is there anything else unexpected in here? Because, I always tell you what I'm grabbing and then I end up grabbing something extra. Okay, I did a very good job of sticking to the list. There's nothing else extra in this pile. So with that said, we can move on to the reviews of the week. So I read a couple of books this week. I've read quite a few, actually. And like I said, I have been reading, or because I didn't pick up any of my books until like last or this past week, for the last 3 weeks, I've been playing catch up. So there are some notable books that I haven't read yet, like Amazing Spider-Man issue 25, for example. One book I did read very recently, though, The Avengers, issue number one by Jed McKay, art by C.F. Villa. This was a, I don't know, 1 in 10, 1 in 25, 1 in something ratio variant that I was able to grab because all the cover A's and cover B's were sold out. Like every regular variant of this book was sold out by the time I got to the shop yesterday. So I had to grab this ratio. Um, I read that. I felt like it was good, not great. Like it was cool just to see the whole team in action. And Carol Danvers is the captain of the Avengers, basically. They call it the chairperson, I believe. So Carol Danvers is the chair of the Avengers, and this book is basically her picking out her team, and you're getting her like going to each member and basically doing a whole recruitment speech, asking them to be on her Avengers squad, and you get her reasoning as to why. And in some points, it very much just feels like Jed McKay is saying, "Hey, I wanted to use these characters, and this is why." So yeah, I thought it was a well done issue, especially for someone like me who hasn't read an Avengers title like ever really. So explaining why each member of the team is important, I thought was pretty cool. Um, the I think the one part that kind of got me or made me laugh was Black Panther. I'm pointing at Iron Man. Black Panther. When Carol goes to recruit Black Panther to the team, it's basically like, hey, yeah, I know all the stuff that's been going on in the Black Panther run, but I like you anyway, so here you go. And so it just felt that was the moment where I felt the most like, okay, this is just Jed McKay speaking through Captain Marvel. But I wasn't mad at it. All in all, I'm excited to see where it goes. It looks like they're on a collision course with Kang, and I don't know how that's going to go. I've never really read anything with Kang, but yeah. So for those of you who want to know who's on the team, it's literally everybody on this cover. So you got Iron Man, Black Panther, Sam Wilson, Captain America. You've also got, what do we have? Carol Danvers, of course, Captain Marvel, Thor, Vision, and Scarlet Witch. So that's the Avengers team for the foreseeable future. And all in all, pretty good. Pretty good. I have no complaints about this. Yo, I apologize. Like, there's somebody outside of my house like playing music at incredibly loud levels. So I'm sure you don't hear it on the microphone, but it's distracting. So if I lose my train of thought, that's why. My bad. Um, but also the dog is barking, which means there's probably a package at the house. I don't know. So Arlisha, oh no, excuse me, Dynamite wants to know, did I prefer Titans or Avengers? I have not read Titans yet. So I'm saving that. My guess is I'm gonna like Titans more, but that's really just because I'm such a DC fan. And I've been reading all the Nightwing stuff that leads up to Titans. But yeah, I'm saving that one for later on in the reading pile because I know I'm gonna enjoy it. Um, is it which ones? Is it a limited issue of the Avengers? So this cover, like I said, it's a ratio variant. The Avengers, the book itself is not limited. I think just the demand was higher than the supply at my local shop. I'm sure if you go to any local shop in America, you can find a copy of Avengers number one, or at least most shops. Because as far as I can tell, there wasn't like any first appearance or anything in this issue to make it like a more scarce or collector heavy issue. So yeah, but yeah, Black Panther was a is a member of the team, and I will say it was nice to get that moment where Captain Marvel is like, yeah, I get it. You've done some things. You betrayed our trust. We're gonna work on that, but you're still a valuable member of this team, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed getting that moment because of just how much I feel like T'Challa was beat down in the pages of John Ridley's Black Panther over the last year. So I don't know how they're going to reconcile him being on the Avengers with his whole fugitive enemy of the state Wakanda stuff they got going on or coming up, but we'll see. Let me turn this other light down a little bit. Get a little bit more cinematic here with this view. Omni Nation, my man Daddy wants to know, kind of random question: are you still doing your Uncanny X-Men readathon, or is that in the back burner? Yeah, it definitely kind of fell on the back burner. I I think trying to read all of Chris Claremont's X-Men back to back to back to back probably wasn't a good idea, but also thinking I was going to have that much time to read on top of like my job, on top of other responsibilities, was also kind of a bad idea. So I sort of abandoned that goal from last year in favor of just reading shorter story arcs, which reminds me, let's get to another review. I'm not even going to talk about this for very long, but I read this over the weekend. This is Batman the Black Mirror. I'm not going to talk about this very much because I do plan to record a full um, semi spoilery review and overview for the channel. But this is one of those books that it gets recommended a lot as far as like people's favorite Batman stories, and I had never read it. I know that Dick Grayson is Batman in this book, and that's about all I knew about it before I read it this weekend. But it's written by Scott Snyder with art by Jock and Francisco Francavilla. So same Jock who did Batman Who Laughs provides some of the artwork on this, and it's about Jim Gordon's son coming back to town and a lot of the challenges that brings. And that's kind of all I'll say about it. The artwork is really good. I really love how Jock handles most of the Batman scenes, and Francisco Francavilla handles most of the Jim Gordon scenes, and they work so well together. My favorite portions of the art mostly are Francavilla's, which is just a testament to his storytelling. But I think what really sets it apart is the moody colors on Francavilla's artwork. This splash page in particular, the Jim Gordon splash, like that's just great stuff. And it's not really gonna translate well from this view. But yeah, I really enjoyed this story. I'd give it what, 8.5, 9 out of 10. Really liked it. James Gordon Jr. is such a great antagonistic character, if you will. But yeah, so much of what gets highlighted about this book is the art by Jock, and specifically this cover for Detective Comics issue 880. Um, but I felt like Francisco Francavilla stole the show. So, all in all, great story. I enjoyed it. And then another thing that I wanted to highlight that I read this past week was Static Shadows of Dakota issue 4. This came out Tuesday. I read it Tuesday, filmed a review. The review went out yesterday. So if you haven't watched it, go ahead and watch it on the channel. If you're not reading Shadows of Dakota, like you should be, because it's really good. The pre-order or the hardcover is available for pre-order now. It'll be out in November in case you did miss out and your shop didn't order enough copies for you to, go and grab it late. But all in all, Static, this is this series has been the introduction of Ebon, if you remember Ebon from Static Shock, the cartoon, into the DC universe and into the Milestone comics, because he wasn't in the comics originally. He was just from the animated show. And they've made Ebon a lot more sinister, a lot more scary, and seemingly a lot more powerful than you might have guessed from the animated series. And so, but they also gave him depth in this issue that I feel like he didn't have in the animated series. And I think they do a great job of differentiating what makes him tick versus, let's say, Holocaust from the Blood Syndicate. But in this issue, Static meets Ebon for the first time, and we realize just how difficult it's going to be for Static to overcome Ebon on this quest to sort of save the Bang Babies. So, yeah. Um, Kenneth Franklin says, "Don't you feel like the art is a lot more rushed and sketchy and static this season compared to last? I know you're a fan of Draper Ivy, but it doesn't look as good to me." Yeah, that's been my consistent complaint about Static season 2 or Shadows of Dakota is that I can't tell sometimes. I can't tell if it's a stylistic choice or if it's like just the production schedule and, artwork deadlines or whatever. But there are points in this book where it does just look really sketchy. You know what? Let me pull it up on the computer instead of trying to show it to you this way. Give me a second. I'll show you an example of what I mean. That's how important it is for me to stay on top of this series. Like I buy it digitally and then I still buy the physical later. So give me a second. All right. So Shadows of Dakota issue 2. Well, here's an example, right? This panel. Like on one hand, it's like I think maybe it's supposed to be like maybe stylistically it's just supposed to be not heavy detail on the figures, but um and maybe it's the focus is really just storytelling. Like this is a very cinematic looking page. If you're looking at, let's say, from here and you're getting everybody in silhouette except the officer who's talking, then to here where we're getting this side view and you're getting a little bit of the lighting, but even this looks a little bit rushed, a little blurry, right? And then you got your wide shot, and the wide shot I feel like it's just not as strong. Like this feels like it's a layout. It feels like it's a rough that didn't get fleshed in. So yeah, to answer your question, Kenneth, yeah, the art does feel at times rushed and sketchy, but then there are other points where it's like really strong, like this page. This page right here, I liked a lot. Um, Really the whole sequence in the void. But yeah, like if I go from, let's see, if I go from Shadows of Dakota issue 1, for example, I want to view whatever. There was a page in issue 1 where I was like, yo, this is it. I don't know. There's not an easy way for me to do that. Why do I not have like a book view instead of a issue view? There's issue 2. Scroll for another month. Here we go. So it could be that whole thing like you got your whole lifetime to make your first album. So the layouts and even just like the background detail from the first few pages of issue 1 to me feel a lot better than some of the same or similar moments in later issues. Like, yeah, like I feel like the art in issue 1 is stronger than the art in later issues. Um, with the exception of some of the Ebon scenes that you get in subsequent issues. But anyway, not to harp on that, I try to be fair and objective when it comes to stuff like this. Like, because yes, I am a fan of Nick Draper Ivy, and overall, I'm a big fan of this series. It's been doing, or it's to me, it's hitting all the high marks. But yeah, got to be honest and critical where criticism is due. Tayshawn says it's probably a bit of both, meaning it's probably some of it is it being rushed and some of it's stylistic. IG and Twitter posts lately seems like this stuff and probably behind the scenes issues are stressing him out a bit. Yeah, no, this it's true that there have been, at least from what's been public, there's been like different designs that have been rejected and then pages having to be turned around in shorter time period because you had one idea and that got rejected and you got to go back to the drawing board, literally. So yeah. With all that said, I think where the series' strength is the writing, but also just the overall tone. Like this issue in particular, where, well, I shouldn't say it's just the writing. The art is good. Um, but the overall tone, making this a darker static book makes it more engaging for me, and it makes it easier for me to overlook some of the issues with some of the art. Because again, the art is mostly good, but definitely sometimes sketchy and rushed. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Static Shadows of Dakota issue 4. I felt like issue 4 was a big level up, and I said that in my full review. So again, check that out if you haven't already. Um, Jake wants to know if we all like that Spider-Man 2 PS5 trailer. Yeah, I watched the full gameplay um trailer. It was like 12 minutes of gameplay. And I'll tell you what, it made me want to buy a PS5. And even though I have like completely avoided console gaming or gaming in general for years, there have like ever since that first Spider-Man game came out, I was like, yeah, I kind of want a PS4 so I can play this Spider-Man game. And I've avoided it up until this point. One, because they're expensive. Two, because the PS5 has been largely unavailable. But now it's a little bit more widely available. Like you can grab one on Amazon pretty much like right now if you got the $500-600, whatever it is. But now I'm like, I know that video games will be a time suck that I just cannot afford. But yeah, that gameplay looked awesome. If you play video games, this is definitely one to grab. Like if you're a gamer and a comic fan, I can't see why you wouldn't want Spider-Man 2 whenever it comes out this fall. Bunk says, in regards to editorial demands at Milestone, isn't that kind of the opposite of what original Milestone was about? Wasn't editorial supposed to let the creators do their things? Not necessarily, right? Like original Milestone, for one, is mostly written by one person. So, and that person was the editor in chief, Dwayne McDuffie. So it's not like, and then, but even before we talk about editorial from book to book, the Milestone universe was fairly fleshed out before a single issue was ever written. Like they wrote the whole Bible, like they had plans for pretty much everybody in the Dakota universe from jump. And so then the fact that Dwayne is writing like 3 out of the 4 books, like to start, he's writing Icon, Static, and Hardware. The only book that Dwayne doesn't write from the beginning is Blood Syndicate. And then even Static, he's off of within the first, what, 6 issues. Then he's mostly just writing Hardware and Icon. But anyway, because so much of what we got came from like one person doing the writing and editing, I feel like it was fairly coherent or cohesive, I should say. And it feels like there wasn't much opportunity for there to be like editorial interference, so to speak. There's not much opportunity for a creator to say, well, this is my vision versus yours, because creators and editorial was the same person largely at the beginning anyway, because eventually other people were writing Hardware and even Icon. There were definitely even issues of Icon other people were writing, but Dwayne mostly wrote Icon. But anyway, yeah, so I don't know that it's like the opposite. I think the difference though is editorial is not just Milestone editorial. Like the editorial for these books, for the Milestone Returns lines, our line has been DC editorial. Like Chris Conroy is the group editor for like all their out of continuity Black Label type stuff, including the Dakota universe. And then Marquise Ivy has kind of been promoted. I think he was like an associate editor, and now he's like an editor straight up of most of the Milestone line. But anyway, they're shared resources with other aspects of the DC universe. So I don't know like whose editorial vision is being passed down, right? Like, is it Dwayne or is it Dennis and Reggie who are like, hey, this is what we want to do for the next year? Is it all the writers come together and pitch ideas and Dennis and Reggie say, no, we're gonna do this, we're not gonna do that? Or, is it Chris Conroy? And what are we working from some sort of Bible? I assume there's a plan. I don't know. At this point, I'm speculating as much as anyone else would be. But all that to say, I really enjoyed the level up that Ebon got in this issue. So Shadows of Dakota got a 9 out of 10 for me. And the reason it didn't get a 10 was because of some of the shortcomings from the art. Did I cover everything I wanted to cover before we start talking about DC and Diamond and Image and whatnot? Paul in the 619, everybody, what's good? What's good, Paul? Where's the 619? This music is really annoying me. San Diego, California. Like, why is it so loud? I can't hear myself think. That's what's up, man. San Diego. What's up, San Diego? My brother, no, he didn't. My brother lived in San Francisco, not San Diego, and I always get those two confused. So, anyway, another book I read was Count Dante. I also did a short review on the community tab. Short version, though, this is an absurd book with an absurd premise. This dude, Count Dante, was actually a real martial arts master, apparently. And he used to like market his services or advertise his services in comic books. And this is a comic book about the guy who was advertising in comic books from the perspective of one of his friends that came up with him, basically explaining the story of his life with a bunch of embellishments as well. So, yeah. Rey Mysterio. 8-hour difference between San Francisco and San Diego, or 8-hour drive. Gotcha. Yeah. That makes sense. So yeah, Bunkmaster B is making his live hosting debut tonight. So I'm trying to actually like make sure this show is done in fairly reasonable amount of time, right? So at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific time, the Brave and the Boys, they are doing their 100th video on their channel, and it's going to be a live stream. And on this live stream, Bunkmaster B is going to interview them. So that'll be fun. Buckmaster loves Scout comics. They don't always hit, but I love the passion behind it. Yeah, this book just was really fun. I don't really know how else to put it. I had a hard time putting it into words, even as I was writing my review. But basically, I read the comic and I was like, "Oh snap! Was this a real dude?" And so then I Googled the guy, and the more I read about the guy, the more I'm like, okay, this guy's life is ridiculous, or at least some of the claims he made are ridiculous. And then that made me reread the comic because I'm like, everything in the comic is based on a real life event. And it's like the truth is stranger than fiction. And so it makes the fiction even more fun to read as you learn like what the truth is, or at least what the mysteries around the truth are. If that makes any sense at all in all, is a fun book. So haven't seen Count Dante since I was reading through Deadly Hands of Kung Fu. Dude has an interesting history, real or fake. Exactly. And that was the part. I was like, I'm reading through this guy's Wikipedia page, and I'm like, yo, this is crazy. And I found like an old, can't remember what website it was, but I was reading an article about him. And it felt like the guys who wrote this lifted a lot of what they wrote from that one article that I read. Like just different details, but the art style really worked for me. The pacing really worked for me. It was just a fun and funny book. So yeah, it's rated mature. I didn't see anything crazy mature in this issue, but I assume it's gonna get quote unquote worse, so to speak, in later issues. So I'll have to let you know how that goes. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the reviews of the week. I mean, I could spend a lot of time reviewing books because I've been reading a lot of books this week. I haven't touched my DC stack. So, Cyborg, Titans, Green Arrow #2, The Flash, Nightwing, none of those am I caught up on. But, um, I read through a lot of the X-Men from the past few weeks. So, in fact, I read everything in this stack. So I read Wolverine 33, X-Force 40, X-Men Red 11, and I'm almost done with X-Men 22. I was reading that right before I started streaming. And the X-Men are in a good place. Is really the best way I can say that. Um, the X-Men proper title, it seems very disjointed from what you're getting in all the other X titles. So if you can only read one X-Men book, this is probably the one I'm reading, X-Men proper, because everything else is like interconnected in so many ways. And then with the whole fallout from the Sense of Sinister event and all that, you're getting all that in Immortal X-Men and X-Men Red. So yeah, but all in all, X-Men are I'm enjoying X-Men right now. Partworks is here. What's up, man? Haven't been making the lives as my shifts changed to the earlies with the time difference. Napped early tonight. Hi from the UK. Much love. Man, so good to see you, dude. Um, if you want an utterly absurd Scout Comics title loosely based on someone's life, the recent Codename Ric Flair is ridiculous and silly and a lot of fun. Okay, I'll have to check that out. Yeah, Scout Comics, I've not read a book from Scout that I didn't enjoy. Scout Comics published Black Cotton. They published Metal Shark Bro. What else have they published that I've read? There's something else that they've published that I've read, and I can't think of it. Maybe it wasn't anything else. I don't know. But my point is, I've enjoyed them. Paul says, X-Men I like. Anything Jerry Duggan and Kieran Gillen are writing is pretty good. True. Tim Joseph Smallkey, the art writer and artist behind Cherry Blackbird, did another title for Scout called We Don't Kill Spiders. That was a more serious comic. Really good. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, man. What I will say is I'm enjoying the fact that our baby girl is in full-time daycare. I got time to listen to myself think. Now that people stop playing music across the street. But I read like 6 comics yesterday, and that never happens. I never get to read that much in one day. So I haven't done that since like before she was born. So now maybe I can go back to reading Chris Claremont's X-Men, because the reason I abandoned that project was I just wanted to feel like I was accomplishing more with my reading. So I was reading like shorter story arcs like Black Mirror or like one of the Reckless Trades, stuff like that. I would read like short 5-6 issue stories just to get reading under my belt. Bolt 1 and Dave Evans tribute hardcover came in. Fundraiser for bereavement charities after his passing last year. Already raised $2,000 from the Kickstarter. Remaining copies from the Sentinel Boys at Lawless and it's killing cons. Very cool. Now that Squeak is in daycare, you get the next podcast issue finished. That's on the agenda for tomorrow. And I think I've decided I'm going to adopt formally. I'm going to adopt a monthly podcast schedule, right? Single issue comics come out monthly, so issues of the podcast will come out monthly. And then hopefully like we don't get hopefully that gives me time to like really write good issues of the podcast. Like I want the Comics Are Dope podcast to be more like audio essays than like some sort of current event driven thing. And so those just take time for thought and research and writing and stuff. And then every now and then we'll start to bring in guests as I find my schedule opening up. Right now, the issue with having guests on is all of my weeknights are like packed because we're like leaders at our church and stuff. And so Monday nights are busy, Tuesday nights are busy, Wednesday nights are busy, Thursday nights I stream, and then I try to keep Friday open for the family, and then the weekends are just insane. So unless I record podcast interviews during the workday, they won't get recorded. And so trying to figure that out, maybe trying to push an extra weeknight somehow, or just scheduling like one Saturday a month where I just talk to a bunch of different people and we kind of parse those out later. But yeah, so the next issue of the Comics Are Dope podcast will drop sometime this weekend. And it's a conversation between myself and resident dope fiend Skip and Tosh about his love for indie comics, how it developed, and what indie comics he recommends to people. So, yeah, it's a conversation that we had weeks ago, and I just haven't had time to edit it down and publish it in a meaningful format. I can't even lie. There's like other stuff has been clouding my view of the podcast as well, but we can talk about that offline or the members only chat. And yeah, but I appreciate the support. Like between Bunk and Skip, the two of you are like single handedly trying to keep this podcast alive. So I appreciate it. Um, Jake is waiting for volume 3 and volume 5 to arrive before he starts reading Chris Claremont's X-Men, but it feels so daunting and discouraging to not feel like you're making progress while reading. Yeah, I mean, I think your mileage will vary. For me, reading this, I even put the X-Men section right next to my desk so that it would be easy for me to grab and read them. But reading this, Chris Claremont's X-Men Volume 1, I wasn't used to like the Bronze Age really wordy writing style or like the the tendency to restate the happenings or the goings on of each issue. So it's like it felt very much like kind of like the X-Men animated series where you're watching it, and when you watch one episode at a time, it's like, okay, this is cool. But if you ever try to binge watch X-Men the animated series, it's like previously on X-Men, next time on X-Men, previously on X-Men, theme song, a little bit of action, next time on X-Men, previously on X-Men, a little bit of action, right? And so it can get like just, I don't know, it feels like some things weren't meant to be binged. This feels like, and the other thing you got to remember is, as this is coming out originally, there's 2 months between issues. So they have to restate all the happenings and goings on just so that it jogs the reader's memory. Nobody knew there was going to be a collected edition 50 years later. So nobody was thinking of like shortening that up a little bit. But anyway, my point is this was really good, but it was dense. And if I'm honest, it doesn't really pick up until volume 2. And I did start reading volume 2, but I actually wanted to sit and read it. So I'll pick that project up a little bit later. I've been strongly considering dropping most of my pull list and focusing on collected editions, or even not even just collected editions, but back issues, reading older stories, because I feel like I fill up my plate, my reading pile, with all this current stuff. And if I'm honest, a lot of it doesn't really stick. It's just kind of, I don't know, you're reading and you're reading and you're hoping something's going to be good. And some stuff is great, and most stuff is like fine. And so I'd like to do a little bit more focused reading stuff that's like kind of already been tested and true and stuff. So yeah. You prefer floppies or collected edition for reading? Um, Funny enough, like I enjoy the feeling of single issue comic books. Like I love like reading one issue of Superman, ending it on a cliffhanger and be like, yeah, I gotta come back next month. Um, but again, that kind of keeps you in this lull where you'll allow yourself to be excited by one issue, but then when you go back to like the story as a whole, it was just like it was a series of gotcha moments that didn't really add up to a really great story. A lot of times. There's exceptions for sure. Um, but yeah, with what was I gonna say? Oh, collected editions. I enjoy collected editions for collecting. Like if I want to go and revisit a story, but for reading in general, I've been doing most of my reading right here on my iPad. Right? Like I'm that guy that will buy an omnibus, look at the contents on the back of the omnibus, and immediately save that to like whatever reading list in Marvel or DC Infinite, and I'll just read it on the tablet because it's so much easier to carry around. It's backlit, and it's just more convenient that way. When I was reading the Uncanny X-Men Volume 1, I was reading it in the hardcover and on my tablet, and I would literally move my bookmark around. So yeah. I would just feel so rushed and stressed trying to make current content for floppies. Collected editions can be more evergreen. Yeah, yeah, and that's a whole separate conversation about like what to make content around. I make my pull list video every week, and I kind of just, you know, I know about what viewership that's going to get. As far as like single issue reviews, I don't do a lot of them because, like you said, you've got to read the single issue in order to review it, but you've also got to be early to capitalize on some of the review traffic. Like I spent a decent amount of time yesterday filming and editing that review for Static issue 4, knowing it wasn't going to get a ton of views. And I think it's somewhere around 150. But I also know that like no one's going to check for that review because if you're reading Static, you don't need to watch a review of issue 4 to decide if you're going to read it. And if you're not reading Static, you're not going to want to watch a review of issue 4 because you don't want to spoil the first 3 issues. So I just made it because I really liked that issue. But yeah. My man Skip's here. What's up, dude? We were just talking about you. Hand pink waving right back at you, Skip. What is hand pink waving? That's obviously an emoji. And to Graham Tosh. Yes. What's up, Graham Tosh? Is that what we're calling Grams? Time is precious. We want to read the dopest stuff and leave the crap on the shelf. Right. Right. But the Carrie actress Samantha something dead at 28. Sheesh. Dwayne's here, brand new follower. Really enjoying your take on comics. Just listened to your Black Cotton interview. Watching from Grand Prairie, Texas today. Yo, thanks for jumping in. But yeah, so when it comes to what I'd like to make content about, I like making more evergreen content. But yeah, like I expect my Batman Black Mirror review. It's not gonna like tear the house down in terms of viewership numbers, but people are gonna look for Batman Black Mirror for years to come. They're not necessarily gonna look for Detective Comics 880. You know, that's got a shelf life of about a week. So yeah. But yeah, as far as collecting, I like to grab collected editions so that like if you walked into my room and you saw what comics were on the shelf, you'd be like, this is a man of good taste. So I don't necessarily want to collect everything. So I feel like floppies are a good way to audition stuff and be like, do I need to have this in my collection or not? And it's probably going to be better for me and my wallet over time to switch to like just doing Marvel Unlimited or DC Infinite, reading the stuff digitally without purchasing the floppy first, and then buying the trades or hardcovers that resonate with me the most. So we've done all of that. We've talked about all of these things, and yet we still have not gotten to today's big story or yesterday's big story. And let's share that. Let me share my screen real quick. So what we were going to discuss tonight is this. Lunar distribution. Jeez, I really hate how most comic websites are just completely overrun by ads. But I understand why they have to be. But in a bombshell announcement yesterday, Image Comics announced they're moving away from Diamond distribution. And they're going to be moving to Lunar. Diamond is still going to be a wholesaler, but they're not going to like distribute stuff to individual comic shops anymore. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like every time there's a big piece of news in comics, there's like I don't know, there's the people that are like, "Oh, see, comics are dying," or like, they use it as like a gotcha moment, like I told you so or whatever. Because I don't really because I don't really follow or I don't comment on news like that, I couldn't really follow threads in that way. But I feel like this is the most significant or the latest really significant thing to happen to Diamond in the last 3 years that I've been reading comics and buying them regularly. So of course, like during the pandemic, Diamond like shut down, right? And it came out that Diamond was like severely behind on payments to publishers and also behind on bills with their different creditors and stuff. And so the pandemic shutting down comics straight up just like really threw a wrench in things for Diamond. If you're not familiar, Diamond Comics distribution is, or was at least, the largest distributor of periodical comic books to the direct market. In fact, they were the only distributor when I started reading comics in 2019. So basically, your comic shop, your local retailer orders books from Diamond. And if you're a publisher and you want your books in comic shops, you go through Diamond. And so during the pandemic, after the whole shutdown and Diamond being late on bills and stuff like that, DC announces, hey, we're not going to partner with Diamond anymore. We're going to actually partner with these two companies that we basically have been in bed with for years in Midtown Comics and DCBS. DCBS also was doing business as Lunar Distribution. Um, and DC basically ends up partnering with Lunar to distribute their comic books. And Lunar's grown a little bit. So they've got Scout Comics distributes through Lunar. I want to say Mad Cave Studios distributes through Lunar, as well as DC. And then not too long after DC leaves Diamond exclusively, Marvel left Diamond exclusively as well. And so Marvel is mainly distributing their graphic novel or their periodicals, floppies, if you will, through Penguin Random House. And that's come with its own issues. Now, one thing that did or does, um, if you're not familiar with the way the retail system works, um, I feel you, Tim. Read something dope. Peace. Yes. If you're not familiar with the way the retail system works, right? You order from a distributor, and Diamond would give the retailers discounts on books based on the volume that they order. So if the two largest uh, comic book publishers stop distributing through Diamond, that means the discounts get worse because you're not ordering everything from Diamond, you're ordering some things from Diamond. And then it also means that instead of getting your orders through freight, in many cases, like a one big UPS truck shipment, uh, often you're getting your books through like UPS, like individual boxes, stuff like that, like FedEx, UPS, different mailers. And so then what we started seeing was a lot more damaged shipments from Diamond because they're not shipping everything on pallets. They're shipping things in individual boxes that get processed through sorting facilities. And basically, they weren't packaging stuff well enough to avoid damages. And so, in the last couple of years, there's been a lot of complaints about Diamond from retailers. And on top of that, and even as you know, Diamond's like losing a lot of the goodwill they've had with their customer base, just being the only option out there. Lunar's over here and Penguin Random House is over here, and they're like improving processes. Like there were videos going around about like, hey, here's where my shipment, here's what my shipment from Diamond looked like last week, and here's what my shipment from Lunar looked like. And there's like bubble wrap and nice bunch of cardboard and double walled boxes and all these different things that if you're a retailer mean a lot to you, because the other part of it is through different comic book publishers there's all these incentives. So like, for example, this ratio variant, right? I don't know. I think this was a 1 in 25, right? So if there's only one of these for every 25 copies of the regular book. And this just comes in a regular old box. And when this comes, it's damaged. Well, now I can't get the $25 premium that I was going to get for this book because it's damaged. And so this is now, and that also means I ordered 25 copies of another book just to get this one, really for no reason because I can't sell this one. And I'm stuck with 25 regular copies. This feels like such nerd talk. And it doesn't help that there's no one in the room with me to be like, slow down, hold on. I mean, let me ask a question. But anyway, so there were all these retailer complaints about Diamond, and the competitors were getting better and offering better services. And now the culmination of that is in this latest announcement that Image, the third largest comic book publisher behind Marvel and DC, is also leaving Diamond. So, with all of that happening, every time a major publisher left Diamond, the question was, well, what's going to happen to Diamond? It seems and feels like eventually Diamond is just going to stop existing, or at least stop existing in the way that they exist now. Because how do you keep up with that when everybody's not ordering from you at scale and the cost of business keeps going up because you're operating in smaller quantities that have to be handled in more delicate scenarios? But where I wanted to pick up discussion was, how do you feel like this impacts the smaller publishers, the smaller creators, right? The people who are the people who are basically trying to get their books into comic shops. For the longest time, if you can get yourself shown in the previews catalog, if you can get your books distributed through Diamond, or if you get picked up by a publisher who does distribute through Diamond, well, that gives you an instant in point to every comic shop in America. And now, you know, it there's gonna be some retailers that just kind of stop doing business with Diamond eventually. Like, is there enough? I mean, maybe not, because there's still Dark Horse. There's still, that might be the last big one. There's Dark Horse, there's Dynamite, there's IDW, there's Boom. But several of those are also distributing through Penguin Random House now. So when it's all said and done, how many retailers want to deal with accounts with that many distributors? And so is that going to hurt indie comics creators? Is really where my thoughts went for this. Paul says, I was at my LCS on Wednesday. The guys at the LCS were talking about it. They were kind of unhappy with the news. Tayshawn says, Heroes dudes were bummed because they're going to have an influx of books on top of normal shipment right before Heroes Con. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now, as far as I understand, the change is starting with books on sale in September. So hopefully, everything's good through Heroes Con time. If you're looking for an out in all this nerd talk, how much are my Celtics losing by tonight? I don't know. 7? I haven't. My team's out of the playoffs, and so I've checked out of the NBA season. If I'm honest, a part of me wants to see Jimmy Butler and the Heat take it all. But then the other part is like, if the Heat beat the Nuggets, then that just puts like an even bigger like target on LeBron's Lakers. Like, why couldn't y'all get it done? Jimmy Butler got it done, right? So I don't know, but I think it'd be cool to see. The Heat win a title with a roster full of undrafted basketball players. I'm talking specifically about the accident that delayed Diamond Books this week. My bad. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Interestingly enough, the accident delayed diamond books didn't really affect my books for this week, which I had indies. Let's look at my stack. So, and a lot of my indies were from last week, so take that as you will. Okay. Well, no, Maleficent was last week. All right, so that's why. I got Image, I got Boom. Yeah, basically everything that I read is already available through other publishers or other distributors. So it didn't really impact me very much. But for those people who are reading stuff like, I don't know, say Keen Spot books, stuff like that is only available through Diamond. And so when something like that happens, a diamond truck crashes, there's a snowstorm, whatever, it's like it really holds up everything. Yo, speaking of holding up everything, I was reading this book called Ben Mortara and Thieves of the Golden Table by Arnon Shore. And it's being distributed through both Penguin, or excuse me, both through both Diamond and Lunar. But I swear, the issue 2 just keeps getting delayed. Yeah, issue 2 is now slated for May 31st, as is issue 3, which is weird. And yeah, it seems like every week they just keep pushing it back, pushing it back, pushing it back. So that was random, but yeah. So yeah, that was the question I wanted to pose to you guys. Like, how do you feel like this whole change with Diamond and just the state of Diamond in general, how's it going to impact us as readers? For someone like me who's just being a nerd, it's interesting to talk about. I feel like as a business nerd, I feel like competition is good and hopefully it makes everyone better, or at least it helps for us to get a better end product, right? Like if like Penguin Random House finally started double packing their single issues last week. They sent that memo to retailers saying, "Hey, we're going to put our boxes inside of another box with cardboard around." Novel idea. Um, but the more you get competition, the more you're going to have these people doing everything they can to service the retailers that are their customer base. And those improvements should trickle down to us as customers, where it's not that you're getting books in the mail that are damaged or at the shop that are damaged. And I guess that's really the only way it benefits us. Um, but the thing that sucks though is the more different retailer accounts you have, the more separate shipping bills you have, the more you've got to deal with. All right, let me place the diamond order and the lunar order and the penguin order, and keeping up with FOCs through 3 different distributors is crazy. Trying to keep up with the payment terms, like one might be net 30, one might be net 90. Like that's gonna be crazy. I can't imagine this feeling great for retailers. But when I ask my retailer friends, meaning the homies at my LCS, they don't seem too broken up about it. It's just kind of, this is the lay of the land. This is the way business is done. And if I'm honest, is generally what I hear. If I'm honest, Diamond had it coming. Like, so yeah. Dynamite says it'll be rocky at first. Comic shops will be getting multiple orders, which means more payments. I think it's bad for Diamond, for sure. For sure. Paul says, as long as my LCS gets their books on time, I'm cool. I know mine have had delays in the past. Delays cost them money. That's also true. Honestly, not much at this point. Diamond has lost their monopoly and they've been continuing to lose market share. There will be initial business pain in the transition, but things won't change much. True, true. I think it does help that it's not like there is another fourth distributor being created, right? Like if you were already ordering all your DC books from Lunar, which if you're ordering DC books, you had to be ordering them from Lunar. It's not much to just add the image books there, right? Like for some retailers, that means they're getting a discount on image books that they weren't getting before. Like our channel sponsor, Organic Price Books, they're ordering graphic novels, they're ordering collected editions. And so to be able to put the DC graphic novels on the same order as the image graphic novels, especially since the image graphic novels are typically thinner trades, thinner hardcovers, right? With price points at about $50, a little less, a little more sometimes, right? Now you can offer deeper discounts because you're getting 50% off as opposed to 30% off for ordering in the small quantities that you were ordering them from through Diamond or other retailers. So some retailers are like, this is a win for me. And others are like, eh, it's whatever. Like I said, no retailer that I've talked to seems like they're broken up about it. Where I really feel like it could be whack is for those smaller independent comic creators who are already struggling to get their books read or talked about or in shops, right? If I'm placing my monthly or weekly order through Diamond and I got to look through the Diamond catalog and I see something that looks interesting, then yeah, I might order that. But if all the big heavy hitters are with Lunar and Penguin, how much time am I really going to spend going through the Diamond catalog looking for reasons to justify a purchase? So people like, say, people like Sigma Comics, who's got Here Comes Calico uh, being distributed into shops right now through Diamond. I feel like those are the people that lose out when things like this happen. But yeah, my LCS already has issues getting their DC titles on time. They're always almost a week late. Just going to be worse now with Image. Huh. That's interesting. I've since the switch to Lunar, I've never had issues getting my DC books on time. There have been several times where the diamond shipment got delayed or the diamond shipment got damaged or there was a car crash or something. There's been plenty of times where I've gone to the shop and it's like, hey, we don't have our diamond shipment, so our Marvel books aren't here until Thursday, right? I've never had an issue getting my DC books on time. In fact, most times when I go to the shop on Monday, the DC books are already packed in my box and they're just waiting for the Marvel stuff. So, yeah, um, that sucks. Where are you located, Dynamite? Dynamite might go to an online store. The only issue, in my opinion, with shopping online for floppies is that they're not allowed to send them to you until release date. So you're guaranteed to get it late. And depending on what type of shipping you choose, that could be a few days after release or it could be a whole week after release. If it's a whole week, I could have made the trip to my local comic shop by then. So that's why I don't order floppies online. That and I like the experience of being at my LCS. Like heck, I do everything else from home. I make YouTube videos from home. I work from home. I stream from home. So leaving the house to go to the comic shop is actually fun for me. But for other people who are busy and stuff, like I think it makes total sense to shop online. So yeah. All in all, I think that's just the biggest piece of news that I've seen in a little while. I'm also curious to understand. I'd like to understand because in the press release from Image, they said that it was going to make it easier for them, or that Lunar was offering things that Diamond wasn't offering. I'm curious to know what that is. Like, what is it that Lunar's doing that Diamond isn't Like, what can a distributor do that another distributor is not doing besides pack your books better? And I imagine that's like payment terms, right? Like if Lunar's paying the publishers on time and Diamond is not paying the publishers on time, then that allows the publishers to pay artists sooner, to green light more projects and have a better feeling of where the revenue is and so on. So maybe that's the issue. Because again, Diamond was not up to date on their bills when the pandemic started. I don't know what happened since then. So yeah. Yo, Evan's here saying what's up and I love your content. Keep it up. I appreciate it, dude. I really do. Evan is one of the admins in the Milestone Comics group on Facebook, if I'm not mistaken. Um, like I'm a moderator, but I'm pretty sure Evan's an admin. But anyway, his collection is like insane. Evan literally just has like slabs of like everything you would ever want. He's got it slabbed, not just in his collection. Like a lot of my milestone books are like low grade. Like I just wanted to grab copies just so I could have copies because I thought that was going to be the only way to read them. And then DC decided to publish compendiums. But anyway, Evan's got slabs. Dynamite's from North Cali, outside of Sacramento. Word, word. My man Skips from Sacramento, or lives in Sacramento. Partwork says, I'll pop into a comic shop if I'm in a city anyway, but being in rural Yorkshire, I'm looking at 20 on train fares if I want to make a trip just for that. Shopping online is essential. Yeah, yeah. I'm fortunate in that my LCS is literally like a 5 to 7 minute drive for me. If it was that far out of the way, or if I had to like pay for public transit to get to where I was gonna go, I probably wouldn't do it either. Because then carrying all that stuff back on a train, that's not the move. It's not the move for me. So yeah. Well, that was really all I had to discuss. I guess what we should do, or what I should do, is take a look at the previous catalog and see what's on FOC this week and show it to you guys. All right. So for this week's FOC, final order cutoff, in case you are not familiar, final order cutoff is the deadline or the final cutoff for retailers to order their stock from the comic book distributors before the print run is set by the publishers. So when you pre-order your book before final order cutoff, not only do you guarantee your copy um, at as close to cover price as possible, unless it's a ratio variant, um, you also help set the run and help determine what the demand is for a book and just how scarce it ends up being. And you get to get your book no matter what. So, on this week's FOC, final order cutoff due on Monday. So, you want to call your shop and order these tomorrow, as most shops will place their orders on, Friday, Saturday. Most of them do not wait until Sunday to put in orders. But I like to highlight number ones coming out. Invincible's going back to print. Um, new trade paperback volume 1. So that's interesting. Any single issue from Image. Indigo Children number 1 is getting a third printing. And Bone Orchard Tenement, issue 1, miniseries from Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino. Let's see. Let me share this tab instead. So, from the Eisner-winning creative team behind Gideon Falls Primordial and 10,000 Black Feathers comes the biggest and most essential project yet in the shared horror universe of the Bone Orchard mythos. 7 residents in a building and the dark secrets that bind them together. So, the real world horror version, beginning with a death that feels much more sinister than natural. So, yeah. You guys know I don't really do horror books, so this one isn't on my radar like that. But if you're into horror books, if you're into Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino, who are a great team. Um, I don't know. Some people would like, I don't know, like where you rank them on creative duos, whether it's Jeff Johns and Gary Frank, Andrea Sorrentino and Jeff Lemire, Superman and Clark Kent, Bert and Ernie. I'm joking. Um, what's the other creative duo I was going to name? Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips. Anyway, no matter which of those you prefer, though those names get mentioned a lot as far as being great creative teams. So, Giant Days Library Edition Volume 1 is out on final order cutoff this weekend. Power Rangers Unlimited Coinless #1. What is this? Adam Cesari, Dan Mora on the cover, but the art on the book is by Moises Hidalgo. Mistress Vile has special plans, ones that will bring the Rangers' greatest foe into our world. Scheming isn't without consequences for Lord Draken. He'll have to take a page from the Book of Zordon if he wants the world of the Coinless to survive. But who will be unhinged enough to join his team? Huh. So, presenting the last Rangers anyone would want to be. The fans didn't know they needed it. Interesting. So, this is a book that they're releasing to coincide with the 30th anniversary of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So, that looks like cool stuff. Omni Day says, what comic book characters are you interested in exploring more that you haven't before? In all seriousness, I am looking forward to exploring the character of Hal Jordan more. I always like to check out characters that other people rate really highly that I've never been crazy interested in. Like Superman was the latest example of that. Like I read a bunch of Superman stories in the last year, and now I'd consider myself a Superman fan. Not more of a Superman fan than a Batman fan, but still a fan. So I like to see if different characters can change or people can change my mind about different characters. So yeah, Hal Jordan's probably top of the list for me. I do want to read more Captain America as I'm looking at the Return of the Winter Soldier omnibus. Well, final order cut off this weekend. And then who else would I want to get into that I haven't gotten into before? In general, I want to read more Marvel. I've read Venom. I feel like Donny Cates' Venom is as much Venom as I need to read. I've read some Daredevil. I enjoyed the Daredevil that I've read. Yo, if I'm honest, there's not a ton on this FOC that I'm excited about. Dynamite doing Dynamite things. Is there? I just want to check and make sure I'm not missing on any Darkwing or Gargoyles. No, none of that on FOC this weekend. Okay. Ben Mortara #4 is on FOC, even though issue 2 hasn't come out, nor has issue 3. But hey. Frank Miller's Pandora #6. Heat Seeker Gun Honey, a Gun Honey series. So if you enjoyed Gun Honey, they got more spinoff titles with naked people for some reason. Hunger and Dusk. What is that about? Love on the Brink of Extinction. An ongoing high fantasy tour de force. High fantasy's not my thing. Yeah, I can't even lie. This FOC is looking kind of weak. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. But yeah, so I want to read more. I want to read Hal Jordan because I haven't really given Hal Jordan a chance. I've read at least a little bit of almost every DC character except Aquaman. So I plan to give Jeff Johns' Aquaman a chance in the not too distant future. And then I'm looking around at stuff that I've bought but haven't read yet, right? After that is probably Thor. And I still haven't decided if I want to read Walt Simonson's Thor or Jason Aaron's Thor first. But I know that I want to read Thor and that I haven't read much Thor. So to answer your question, Day, Hal Jordan, Thor, and there was a third that I said, but I can't remember him now. Oh, Aquaman. Those are the 3 characters that I'd like to read that I haven't read more of. And with that, my voice is shot. So I'm gonna take this time to end the stream. Don't forget, guys, on the Brave and the Boys channel, in about an hour and a half, you'll have a chance to watch their 100th anniversary or 100th issue live stream. Um, so check them out. Bunkmaster B is going to be the one interviewing them. So that'll be cool. You've seen Bunkmaster B in the chats pretty much every week here. So that's going to be fun. Um, New Thor coming out soon. Yeah, the Immortal Thor by Al Ewing is coming out soon. Give Aquaman a chance. Here's what I say. Hear what I say. Jason Aaron's Thor will hook you. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I do want to get further into Claremont's X-Men before I try out anything else. I want to at least read volume 2. But again, now that Squeak's in daycare, I'm gonna be able to read a lot more. Even just the amount of books I read today was exciting. So I feel like it's gonna be a lot more reading and reviews going on in the next few months. But first, I'm gonna go to Heroes Con next month. Then I'm gonna go on a vacation with my wife and my family. And then we're back to reading every day in July. That's the goal. So anyway, hope you enjoyed hanging out with me. I really appreciate everybody. Huge shout out to the channel family, everybody that was here on the live chat. Shout out to OPB. And thank you guys for being here. I don't know what you're reading this week, but whatever it is, I really hope that you make it something dope. Peace.